Hey guys! So today I'm going to talk to you about my experience with breastfeeding. My son Leo is now 20 months old and I'm still breastfeeding him. So I'm just going to go over from the beginning and walk you through my experience so far. In the beginning, when I was still in hospital, I was breastfeeding him from the very moment he was born. And at the beginning all women produce a substance called colostrum, which is basically a very thick substance, and it's got a lot of antibodies and it's got everything a baby needs to survive for the first few days of life. After about 4 or 5 days, my milk production started coming in. And what happens is your breasts get really engorged, and what you need to do is, what I did was I breastfed as much as possible in order to get the milk flowing. Otherwise it was really painful if I didn't. So I fed him pretty much all the time. Whenever he was awake, I fed him. For the first few weeks I was breastfeeding him constantly, so he'd wake up, I'd change him and feed him, and then he'd fall back asleep, and that's how he got into the habit of falling asleep by breastfeeding. And it's a habit I still haven't gotten rid of. That's why he's still breastfeeding, I think. So after a couple of months, he dropped a couple of naps. So he had the morning, afternoon and evening nap, and then I'd breastfeed him also at night as many times as he wanted. He was quite demanding, so he'd even wake up between naps for another feed and fall back asleep, and at night he'd wake up minimum 4 times and 4 to 6 times at night. And that lasted actually quite a long time. He went through some periods where he'd have better naps and then I wouldn't have to breastfeed him as much, but then he'd go back to his old habits. And I think that lasted about 8 or 9 months. He was a very difficult sleeper, so he wanted to breastfeed all the time, every time he woke up at night. So I followed him with that, and at around 6 months, when we started solids, we started dropping some of the daytime feedings. So I kept, by 9 or 10 months, I kept only the nap and nighttime feedings. And at around, I think, a year, he dropped his evening nap, and then at around 14 months he dropped his morning nap as well. So since then until now, he's been having his afternoon nap, and I'll breastfeed him to sleep for that, and then he'll have his nighttime feed to fall asleep, and then he'll wake up on a good day probably once or twice, and if he's not feeling too well, or if he's, I don't know, a bit insecure, I guess, he will feed up to 4 times at the most, which I'm okay with. I mean, I'm ready to stop breastfeeding, but I'm not gonna pressure him. I mean, we've come this far. It doesn't bother me anymore, because it gets quite frustrating when I'm the only one that can put him to sleep, and I know I've done this to myself, but I just couldn't find a way to stop it without him crying, because it's part of our routine. It's been part of our routine ever since he was born, so he's used to it. He's very attached to me, and I don't want to pressure him into doing something that he's not ready to do. So I'm just going to stick with it for now and hope that he'll wean on his own without any drama or crying quite soon. So that's my story. If you have any questions, please let me know. I didn't have any problems like mastitis that a lot of women get. It was quite smooth. I mean, he still does bite down every now and then, and it's really painful because he's got a full set of teeth now. But other than that, and basically frustration. It's been quite okay. I think it's more the sleepless nights than the actual breastfeeding that got to me. But now that waking up a couple of times at night, I'm fine with. But I'll be very glad when this whole breastfeeding thing is over. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And down below you'll find my blog contact details and my social media linked. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.